And you're live.
Hello everyone, this is Venkat Dunga and welcome to the next edition of Application Packaging Experts Roundtable. And here is a quick housekeeping for everyone. We request everyone to be muted for the entire session, and we have a special question section. You can post your questions in the chat, and feel free to drop your questions. Okay, and depending on the flow of the talk, we'll be happy to take a question in between or reserve it for later. Okay, and if in case we run into a situation where we're not able to answer the questions in the session, we will be able to reach out to you back. And post session, we'll also have an on-demand version of that available on our website. So let's quickly introduce the speakers here. So, this is my first time in the application readiness experts roundtable. This is Venkat Ramdonga, and I'm the director of product, at Flexera, and I overlook Admin Studio and the app readiness solutions. And I have with me here, Mike O'Connor, who is our senior solution engineer and has tremendous experience in the Admin Studio and packaging space. And I also have, Jasmeet Olak, who we, sweetly call as Jazz, okay, who is a major account manager on at Flexera, managing the application readiness business. And we have a very short and sweet agenda with us here. We'll go ahead with kick off from Mike on what we have around packaging and the backlog management. How Administrator can help you with the packages that come in and how you can manage the backlog. And then I'll take off from Mike and talk about an upcoming functionality which is AppWheel migration to MSIX. And then we'll take a few questions if you are any. All right, over to you, Mike.
Great. Thanks, Venkat. Yeah, so one of the topics we want to talk about today is that, around the idea of managing and you may call it different things, backlog for one, or the packaging queue, or, managing what the applications that are under your management today. I think a few sessions ago, if you joined us then, we talked a little bit about that too. But just the idea of having some repository about the applications that you update and try to keep updated on a regular basis. So again, there are applications that are under your active management as the end user computing or application operations team, whatever the nomenclature you use at your organization, but it's the apps that are under your direct management. You may have application owners, you may have other people that kind of feed you that information, and there's ones that you keep track of directly. So part of it is keeping those applications up to date. Applications often come out more often than they used to, and knowing when a release is available and where to get it, and the information around the applications, how to customize that or configure it for delivery. So that could be transforms for those that are Windows installer / MSI applications, the different command line switches and options that you would typically pass to like executable based installations. A lot of times we hear folks using wrappers like PowerShell App Deploy Toolkit to customize applications, especially EXEs that, there's not really an equivalent of a transform file depending on the installer technology. But if you can supplement the main installer, provide it command line switches, and then, use the wrapper to do things before or after, that works for a lot of folks. But knowing that information, right, every application's a little bit different, what you need to do. One app you may need to add a registry key or something to add licensing information or something. So it's just keeping all those different customizations for each of your applications. So that way you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time you've done it for version 1 and version 2 comes out, and you can apply the same customizations. So it may take more effort the first time around, but keeping that information in an accessible place. And you may have different folks doing, did version 1 last year and someone else is doing it this year. So having some place to keep those customizations is a big time saver. And just a place to see, well, what needs to be done. Is there a new release for application A? Then let's get on it. Let's at least prepare it and package it. A lot of times organizations will wait until they hear from their end users to before they want to update, and that can make sense. But if there's known vulnerabilities or other issues that get addressed by a new release, may want to push, at least get that prepared, so when they do need it, it's ready to go as soon as the first requests come in. So cool. So let me jump over to my screen here. And some of you may be familiar with this, and others that'll be new to you. So either way, it's all good. Let's see. And then, Kat, can you confirm you can see my screen?
You can, Mike.
It's all good?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
So sorry, we're just on demonstration slide, Mike. I can't see your screen. Okay. If that's the catalog you got up.
Let me try that again. One of those, you test it right before you join the call, and then doesn't want to work for the live event. How about now?
Yeah, you can see it.
Yep. Okay, perfect. All right. So some of you are familiar with it, others not. I'm in Admin Studio, the current release that we have, and the application manager, which is the front end for our application catalog. It's a SQL database that we also support Azure SQL Service. But this is where you import all your applications and do whatever you need to do to them to prepare them, and then publish them out to your distribution of choice, SCCM, Intune, Workspace ONE, and a few others. And we added this a few releases back, but the idea of the backlog is kind of what I was speaking before, that list of applications that are under management that I want to, on a regular basis, check in and see, is there a new version? If so, let's go ahead and download it and get it into Admin Studio, and then apply those similar customizations to that package like we would with each new release that comes out. So that's what the backlog is designed to do. So I can add titles individually to here, provided a priority if I want. I also, all these actually came from a CSV file that I imported, and that could be from your preferred inventory source or your list of applications that you've managed elsewhere, or whatever it is. There's also the Enterprise Edition has APIs, both PowerShell and REST-based, so you could have other systems call Admin Studio and add it in here. But regardless, I've got a list here. If I wanted to apply version, I could do that, change the priority. But what this view tells me is, one, what do I have locally right now in Admin Studio today? So that's what's version and catalog. And then Flexera, we have an offering called Package Feed Module. It's a collection of over 6,000 unique installers from about 600 or 700 different vendors. When new releases come out, we're aware of that, and we update our catalog that's cloud-based when there's new releases come out. So the next version of Chrome or any of these applications. So Admin Studio can check for and tell you, hey, there's a new version, and compare that against the version that you have locally and say, like this Dell Command Update, I have 5.1, now we're at 5.3, so there's a new version available. And, if you have just Admin Studio, you do have access to this backlog, and you could add your applications to this list and do this kind of comparison for you. But if you're a Package Feed Module subscriber, then not only can you do that check-in and say what versions are available, but actually have Admin Studio go out and download that installer. And so we have the installer, EXE or MSI, whatever the vendor makes available. Any of the pencil icons, as mentioned, all the customizations that you want to be able to provide. You want to be able to remember that. So we allow you to save those type of information. So some applications are straightforward, like 7-zip here. Other ones like Chrome have quite a lot of customizations. And we'll use those settings that you have here, we'll remember them each time. So they're all saved and ready to go for next time. And we'll actually create, in this case, the transform file with those customizations applied. So every time there's a new release, you'll have to create a new transform file, but you provide the customizations that you want, and Admin Studio will generate that each and every time. For all of them, also EXEs and MSIs, we have installer command line switches, information that you'd pass to the installer. And we actually have an upcoming release. So for EXEs, don't have transform files, but you may also want to apply some kind of customizations to those packages. We provide kind of the most common switches out of the box that you can, but then you can modify it and change those around. And what we'll do in the upcoming release of Admin Studio is remember those customizations too. So whether they're transform for MSIs or silent command line switches for EXEs or MSIs, you can save those, and Admin Studio will remember those for each new version. And then if you're wrapping either of them, we'll take all that into account and apply that to a wrapper. So Admin Studio has out of the box has a version of the PowerShell app deploy toolkit template that you can modify and add other customizations and things. And then that can be used over and over again to create wrappers for your specific applications. So as as new versions come out, you can quickly apply the customizations you want and be able to wrap those, again, leveraging the same customization. So the idea is kind of do the upfront work and then reuse that work over and over again. So for subsequent releases, so you don't have to spend as much effort for new versions as they come out. One thing also with this backlog capability that's built into Admin Studio, you can leverage automation workflows that we've built out. So if you want to have Admin Studio just download the package and provide those customizations out of the box, and then you take it from there, you can do that. But then you can also layer additional automation steps on top of it. So the different various testing that we offer, Windows compatibility for Windows 10 and now 11, Java dependency, best practices, and so forth. You can choose on the Analyze tab what tests you want to run, which ones you don't care about, and then have every package run through that test. You can have every package wrapped into PowerShell if you want, and then hand it over. If you're using something like Intune, you could have it converted to a Intune Win package, or if you want to leverage MSIX, the Microsoft Virtual Container technology, you could do that. And then it can take it all the way to up to and including, just go ahead and automatically publish it to Intune or automatically publish it to Config Manager, whatever you may want to do. So you can choose and dial in the level of automation, and you can create multiple workflows and assign those different workflows to those different packages. So in my case, EXE packages I'll treat differently than MSIs, but there may be more granularity. Certain EXE packages you want to do it this way versus other EXE packages. However you want to do it, you can create those different workflows and apply those and kind of dial in that level of automation. That way you can get every application that can be end-to-end covered for you out the door automatically, and those that maybe you can take it up to a point and then you need to do some further organization specific customization or something for a particular package, take it up to as much as you can with automation, and then take it the rest of the way there through the packaging. And then there's ability to apply that to internal apps, and you can drop off packages into a share, and then we can pull those in, apply those same automations, and even provide some notification for you. So email a group or a Slack channel or a Teams channel, and set those up for have this run on a regular basis. So check in every day to see if there's a new release, and if the release I have locally is the same I have that Flexera offers right now, which is the latest, then we're good. But if there's a newer release, let's download it and go through that process. So it becomes an evergreen, repeatable process, leveraging all those customizations that we've researched and built up the first time. So you can manage this elsewhere in other solutions, or SharePoint and Excel docs. But when you have something that's kind of built into a packaging solution, we really try to, in Admin Studio, take this kind of concept and figure out all the different steps in the packaging and application readiness process. Preparing those apps. Where can we help step in, and where you want us to, and automate it and prepare those apps further. So that's the idea with a backlog like this. Okay. I think with that, I'll turn it over to Venkat.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Mhm.
The next item we have for today is around AppV to MSIX migration. So this is something that we've been contemplating for some time, and our timing is perfect now, given that AppV is going end of life. I think in somewhere in April 2026. I think it's gotten a new life from Microsoft with an extended end of life support. But then it's going to go eventually, right? So and then according to Microsoft and several of our users as well, okay, people are trying to see how existing AppV packages can actually be converted into MSIX packages. So what we're trying to do is, the Microsoft supported application container solution, which is MemSIX, and which we expect it to be a little more adopted by our users. We want to ensure that there is a very good and a seamless migration path, okay, for all the users who are currently on AppV package types, right? So this is a good time, I would say, for anybody who's actively using AppV packages, to start the entire transition, because you would probably have a little under 2 years, okay, to have a staggered package conversion, testing, rollout, and into production. Right. So, we have implemented a functionality. So what we're going to do is, we're going to do a, preview of the functionality that we're going to get in 2024 R1. We're introducing a new functionality to, convert an existing AppV package in your application catalog to an MSIX package. And one last item that was talking about the existing tooling in there is, we are very candid to say that we're not building anything new. We're not there's not reinventing the wheel. We are leveraging on an existing Microsoft technology and their toolkit to actually do the conversion process. So that way, there's a lot of trust in the entire conversion, which is an industry approved conversion process, that the package is converted from packages managed and converted from Microsoft Toolkit and from Admin Studio are apples to apples. So let me quickly give a demonstration of this. Going to be a pretty short demo, okay, but we'll go through that. All right, Mike, it's your turn to say if you can see my screen.
I can. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. We have a small application catalog here, and I've got a AppV package here. And what I'm going to do is, we have a convert option here, which this option is there, but earlier we have a different conversion options, and we have introduced for the AppV package we now have an MSIX conversion option, and a couple of quick clicks. And I'm going to just copy the package location here. And this is beginning the conversion process. So, and for anyone who's new to MSIX, so MSIX is Microsoft's new installation package type, and a very hard mandate there is for the package to be digitally signed. You would have seen in a couple of screens before that there's a certificate information that needs to be provisioned here, okay, in Admin Studio, that will be used for signing the created or the converted MSIX package. So we see that the conversion is done. Let me just go to the location. Okay, I think I have this already. So let me try to open this up. Okay, so this is where the package got converted, and this is the MSIX file. Let's see if this installs successfully. We having demos here. Okay. And it installed successfully, and it also launched successfully. So this is a quick overview of how we do the conversion. The conversion is a pretty simple process, and I think we have automation support as well. Okay, you should be able to use commandlets and REST API to convert the packages from AppV to MSIX.
Yeah, and to add to that, Venkat, right? So once you created an MSIX package, we do have a native editor inside of Admin Studio. So if you want to need to make any tweaks or changes to the package directly, just similar like if you use our install shield editor to make tweaks to an MSI package that you created, you can do a similar with the MSIX editor that's in part of Admin Studio too. And this is, if you've been around a while, this is similar Admin Studio back in the day when AppV was before MSIX, but when AppV was the virtualization technology that Microsoft offered. We had an older the AppV 4, 4.5, 4.6, 2.5. It was kind of, they redid the format. That we had a converter for that, and we leveraged the sequencer back in the day. So that's kind of the engine, but just like with this, Admin Studio becomes the front end for it, so you don't have to switch around between different tools. You can natively just do the conversion, like Venkat showed, right within Admin Studio versus jumping to, around in different tools.
Yes. So there is a question. Okay, let's quickly take the question because it's contextual. So Dean from PHSA is asking regarding MSIX. We are currently encountering issues with the Microsoft Toolkit and experiencing limitations with the MSI technology. Is Flexera considering providing additional conversion benefits beyond the default Microsoft tool? Dean, this is an excellent timing of this question. We would urge you to reach out to us to help us understand what kind of issues you're actually facing, with the toolkit, so that we're also aware of it. And if we have to really go ahead and add our own logic to it on top of the Microsoft conversion toolkit, we will explore those options. So, or if you want to, share additional details, via question, feel free to do so. Okay. So let me just close the loop with what Mike was saying, the ability to edit an MSIX file with the MSIX editor. Yep. So we should be able to do this. Yep. And in case you want to change package name, you want to change the publisher name or any other basic package details, you can go ahead and do those. But after every change, I think we are warranted to sign the application, right, Mike? I think once you digitally sign it, then you'll be able to install it.
Yeah, and if you're probably best long term, for production to use a certificate. So if you're not familiar, MSIX requires it to be digitally signed. You can't run it if it's not signed. You could generate a self-signed certificate, where you as the organization is the certificate authority. Probably the best practice is to use a public acceptable or trusted certificate authority. But if you do, regardless, if you're creating MSIX package, the default will use the publisher name, but that publisher may not match your certificate. So there's an ability to override that when you do the signing part of it. So you may need to tweak the MSIX packages that you're creating. You can do that in the editor. Same thing, tweaking dependencies, setting up package fix-ups, which are ways to get around certain, this is a container format. Not every application is aware and natively supports that. So there may be challenges with file redirection or other things like that. And there's ways to kind of test for that and then generate those fix-ups and apply those to the package. That way you can get more applications out the door as MSIX. So yeah, there's ways to do that with the editor here too.
Okay. There is one question. I think Mike, I'm going to lean on your experience here. This is Chris from Oregon State Lottery. Is there any way to package apps from Microsoft Store to deploy with SCCM?
I think anything that's coming from the Microsoft Public Store kind of needs to maintain that integrity of the package. So you wouldn't necessarily repackage those, but I know for Intune, I believe the same is true for SCCM, I call it Config Manager. There is a way to kind of sideload those packages from the store and make them available. So you gain the ability to distribute those applications under your management, your control, just like you do any other application. But they need to point back to the store because those are also digitally signed and require, kind of that kind of distribution through the store. So they basically act as a link back to the public store. So when you distribute, it actually knows to pull initiate the command to deliver that from the Microsoft Store down to those machines that way. So you wouldn't necessarily download it, because if you download it, as far as I last time looked at it, when you download it and say on your own desktop, it's really locked to that machine, and I can't just redistribute it. That way, you can't retake Adobe's products and then push them out and call them as your own. So, but there is ways to distribute that kind of as a link through those systems. So, yeah.
Okay.
Helps.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
So there's one more question here, I think, from Susan Lee. I think this is a question on, do we have an option to convert AppV to MSI instead of MSIX, okay, in Admin Studio? And MSIX is not really relevant in our environment as we tend to use MSI more often. Mm-hmm. At this point of time, I don't think there are any plans to convert AppV to MSI. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike.
Yeah, when AppV and there were a few others, vendors of app virtualization we supported, we would sometimes get that question: can I go, in essence, kind of backwards? Can I go from a virtual package over to an MSI? And there wasn't really a method to do that. It's got its own virtual file system, and I think converting it into a virtual package, you lose some of the installation logic that would be needed, which is okay for a virtual package because you're delivering it kind of as a container already kind of pre-installed within its container, and you don't have some of the links and things that you would for an installer. So really can't go backwards. But if you have I would usually say, let's start with the source if we can from the vendor, or if it's an internal application. So that's an EXE or MSI, or it might just be a zip file full of files. To start from there, and then from there you can go forward and create an MSI package. And Admin Studio supports, just moving forward, you can make MSIX another format alongside of repackaging to MSI or creation. So that way you can have the EXE or the vendor installer, and you can have the MSIX version. So you can start creating MSIX packages now, even if they're not relevant, but you think they might be coming up in the next 6, 12, 18 months. You can start creating them now and have the source package to start with. But yeah, going from a virtual package kind of back to a traditional installer package, haven't seen anything that works well to do that.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Mm-hmm. And let me pick one question here. So this is from, I think Sean Parker, if I got the name right, with Admin Studio Catalog, what's the best practice to host the packages? Either it is a local drive or a network drive. And we've been seeing some latency issues when I host them in network drive. So so the response would be a little mixed here, Sean. I think, we got to check our capability to talk to a network location in a seamless way, I will take that and query with our engineering team as how we're doing there. At the same time, we expect latency when packets are delivered over the network and they're hosted in a network drive. Even if you're mapping a network drive, the files are technically not local to the machine, and there would be some latency, but feel free to reach out to us in case the latency is completely unacceptable, or you're not able to do your day work, okay, because of the latency. So this is something we're happy to look at and then see if there is a problem on Admin Studio, or it is a problem with the network setup itself. And what we've seen is some of our users try to host their network share in a very fast drive with a very good IO ops, like a SAN drive or anything. So do you want, if you can do certain benchmarking on your end and reach out to us, we're happy to debug any issues on the network on the network drive.
Yeah, and you want to, if you can, have that network storage in the same data center or same area as your application catalog, just to avoid those type of latency. You certainly could import from your local drive, but the problem is if you're sharing that catalog with others, that reference is going to point to your machine and no one else will be able to see it. So yeah, so best to have a shared network share where everyone that's using Admin Studio can connect to it, and that way they can open up the catalog and do any testing or customization, and you swap back and forth and share the same resources. There's a follow-up question from Chris that asked about the Microsoft Store and Config Manager. It looks like support was deprecated from Microsoft, so that was there at one point, but it looks like it's gone. And Microsoft looks like their solution is to use Intune for it. So Intune supports that. So beyond that, like I said, Windows Store apps, they kind of need to be delivered from the store. So looks like Intune is Microsoft's preferred approach to do that.
All right, let's take one more, and then we'll see if we can cover a couple more topics, okay, and in an ad hoc way. So there is a question from Janet here, okay, who says, do you plan to host a similar seminar that may show this app used within the ServiceNow platform and how it may enhance asset management and automated packaging or provisioning with IT operations management? This is a really interesting question, Janet. I think what we have today, and we're so happy and proud to share that Admin Studio is automation first application, which has a very robust coverage for all the operations that are available in Admin Studio. They're covered by automation, whether it is PowerShell commandlet automation or whether it is a REST API automation. So technically speaking, okay, every single packaging operation and every single stage in the packaging process can actually be integrated with a robust workflow management tool like ServiceNow. Right? So we're happy to engage with you and talk to you, and even help you optimize your processes around the packaging with all the experience that we understood and have gathered over years, okay, and help you set up the right process in case you're interested. But are we going to publicly talk about an integration? I think we'll talk to our engineering and our services team and figure out if we can actually showcase a demo. But I can't promise on that part. But if you're willing to engage with us, okay, we're happy to work with you very closely on how Admin Studio's automation interfaces can work with any workflow manager tool.
That's good. All right. We can let some questions queue up. If there's some more topics you wanted to cover, Venkat.
Yeah, so let's actually, I thought, okay, so as a, completely unplanned item, so I thought, maybe I can cover, what our current plans are and where we are with respect to, our roadmap, and, share a few, glimpses of, what we're currently working on, and, when you can expect these functionalities coming. So let me quickly go back to my screen share.
Thanks, by the way, for all the questions. Keep them coming. We'll get to as many as we can today, and we'll answer any others in the coming week or two on our community. So stay tuned. But yeah, feel free to keep sending them in as Venkat goes through the other topics. Thanks.
All right. So this is our what we talked about just now, which is the AppV to MSIX conversion. And let me quickly take to the next one. Okay. And one important functionality that we're currently working on is a bulk migration from SCCM to Intune. So what we noticed, and what we keep hearing from our customers is, the bulk of our users are on SCCM, but then they have a very clear migration path to Intune. That by this time I'd want to completely let go of SCCM and then just completely shift to Intune, right? However, what they lack, or the gaps that they see, is a proper bulk conversion that can happen from bulk migration that can happen from SCCM to Intune. So what we've done is, we have integrated some of our existing processes and, provided a single wizard experience, okay, to say, hey, here is your, source SCCM, and, you go through the Admin Studio processes and then, push all your applications to Intune. And in the process, all the applications come and now sit in Admin Studio catalog, so that if you really want to go ahead and make certain modifications post publish, and want to go ahead and republish them, you're free to do so, because a lot of times what we see is people modifying a lot of the app model data. In case you want to do that, you can do that, but the applications are available in the catalog, okay, for future updates, for subsequent releases, staying on top of the latest versions, and being able to manage within the catalog itself. And during the process, in case you have MSIs available in SCCM, and Intune expects a particular format, Intune Win, and you'd want to do a bulk convert of all the selected applications from SCCM to Intune, there's an option available to convert the selected MSIs to Intune Win format, and then publish to Intune. So this is one functionality that we are excited to launch. And go ahead, Mike. You have any commentary to add?
Well, I was going to say, even though Microsoft says you can co-manage Config Manager and Intune and allow them to work together, what we've heard seemingly from a lot of customers is they're looking to, as much as possible, move away from Config Manager. Probably don't want to manage the infrastructure around it. And if Intune supports all the needs, and to be clear, it doesn't support everything Config Manager does today, but if Intune supports all of the different needs that you have, then a lot of folks have been looking to say, can we just get off Config Manager and just go with Intune? So this migration process, moving those apps out of the older system into the new one, will certainly help a lot of folks.
Absolutely. Thank you. And the next one we have is deploy to Intune from Admin Studio, right? So as any solution, we're evolving, and the needs on the packaging space are also evolving. If you look at a few years ago, I think there were folks dedicated to take care of deployments from SCCM or Intune. What we are hearing from our user base is that we want to complete the process, okay, in Admin Studio, okay, right from packaging, repackaging, modifying the application as per our needs, and not just publish to the endpoint management system, Intune in this case, but would also like to go ahead and deploy to the endpoints, right? And we heard that, and we are starting this journey of trying to bridge this gap of publish and the deploy, okay, with Intune. So we're gonna, in the first phase of this, or the first increment of this entire what do you call fragment of Admin Studio that deals with this, okay, we're going to tackle Intune. And the way we're going to do is, in the Intune world, there is something called assignment groups that needs to be, created for the application to be actually deployed. And, starting 2024 R1, you would be able to create an assignment group right within Admin Studio and modify the attributes of the assignment group from Admin Studio, or delete the assignment group. And when you actually publish the application, the not just the publish to Intune, but it also is deployed onto the endpoint. And in future releases, we hope to extend this to the other endpoint management systems that we support, which include, SCCM and, Workspace ONE.
Yeah, I'll kind of reiterate what Venkat said. So in the past, I know it's always been Admin Studio kind of puts the book on the shelf, or whatever analogy you want to use, to gets it ready in the deployment system. And then we've been kind of hands off and let the deployment folks know, where to go and all that. But more and more we hear folks are like, well, you do everything else. You put it in Intune, for example. Can you just create the assignments and, at least have them go to test groups? So that's all kind of automated. And then we can go in and expand that group over time. So that's what we're bringing it out here to help in that scenario. It's totally optional. You don't have to do assignments, but if you want Admin Studio to do even more for you, then this is that'll help here.
All right. So the next one we are working on is an automated functional testing of packages. So we all understand that currently Admin Studio can do what we probably call as a static testing, which is trying to understand the package, rip open the package. If you have an MSI, rip open the MSI into its tables, try to understand the content, and understand the matching or the relationship between multiple tables, and give a good recommendation of whether the data available in these tables would pose any deployment risk, okay, when the application is deployed onto an endpoint, right? So while this is completely dependent on the information that is available in the MSI tables, sometimes what we also see is that while the application installs fine, okay, there's a problem with the actual run of the application, right? So again, this is going to be a journey, okay. With me, you would hear these words a lot, that what we want to do is we want to go ahead and give you start giving you more confidence, okay, in the entire repackaging process, okay, and before you actually take a decision to publish to SCCM or deploy to your endpoints, right? So in order to do that, okay, what we're starting with is you can not just convert an application from one format to another, but you can also be able to do some functional testing of the application. What this means is you will be able to run, and in the first release you'll be able to run 3 important tests. One is my after my repackaging process, is my installation successful, is my uninstallation successful, and between these two, if the application has any shortcuts, we would try to launch those shortcuts and then see if there is any obvious errors that the shortcut is launching. If it throws a runtime exception, if it throws some kind of a .NET exception or whatnot, okay, we are striving to capture those, okay, and then send them back, okay, to Admin Studio saying the functional testing has failed, right? You might want to take a look at this in a second step, or reach out to the vendor if you also encounter the same thing. So that's a kind of a feedback that I'd like to share with our users who are actively managing applications. So 3 types of tests: installation successful or not, launch all the available shortcuts, okay, and whether they're obviously crashing or they're just launching some other application, okay, we'll be able to capture that. And uninstallation, is the uninstallation successful or not? So this tests will be cascaded down to Admin Studio's application catalog, and in the analyze tab, I believe you'll be able to see the functional testing results, okay, for all the 3 types of tests. And I think this is a good time to take one question, I think, from Darren, who's asking a question. Does the MSI to MSIX conversion tool perform any smart logic to recognize and auto apply PSF when it encounters certain scenarios? Very good question, Darren, here, and which aligns with the current topic that I'm talking. I saw the question, but I thought I'll align it with the topic. That's a good option we could explore, Darren. I'm not saying we would go down that path, but the use case is pretty much valid here, right? Anybody who's done an MSIX conversion would appreciate this, because a lot of times the packages are not truly built for MSIX, right? And when converted to an MSIX format, okay, they tend to let's just call them misbehave, right? The way they're not intended to behave, right? and which requires what we call as the PSF framework and PSF fixups to be applied to the package and to the package in the format, right? So this could be a good example for us to see if we can, the journey that we have started with functional testing. Okay, can we actually capture the errors coming in from a wrapped MSIX package, or sorry, a converted MSIX package, right? Because MSIX clearly has the shortcuts, and we'll be able to clearly define the entry points of the application. And if that leads to any known errors, which has any known PSF fixups, okay, I don't see why not. Okay, but it's a pretty, this is what I'm trying to say, that the functional testing, marrying the conversion process, okay, is an excellent value to a packaging engineer who tries to say, am I confident enough to publish this to SCCM or Intune, and then eventually to the deploy to the endpoint machine. Thanks for asking.
Add to that. So yeah, so the functional testing that Venkat's talking about, that might be applicable for MSIX today in the future. But today, the MSIX editor does have a trace functionality. So if you have an MSIX package, you can test launch it. It'll kind of watch what it's doing as you go through it, and it'll suggest package support framework fix-ups based off of that. So either through the trace functionality, it'll suggest ones that are relevant for you, and you can also individually add them too. So we do have some of that suggestion support today. Once the MSIX package is created, you have to digitally sign it, so supply a certificate to run it, but we can run that trace and help you with those too.
Right. Let me take a roadmap question here, from Jeff. Has the scope tags field been added to Intune option in Admin Studio? Unfortunately, did make the cut for R1, Jeff, but it is on the roadmap, in the coming quarters. All right, let's quickly talk about one last item here, or a couple more. So this is our extends to our package feed module, right? So this is the ability to reuse install command line parameters for future versions. So what we have now today is a continuous feed of incoming packages that are well known or so commonly used. And what happens is we do have a functionality to import the package into the catalog, and let's call version 1 of the application that is imported into the catalog. But then I would have preferred to use a different command line option for it. Let's say, for example, it had a suppress reboot set to no, right? And then I'd like to have my users reboot it. Though it's a bad example, but I'd like to customize the install command line switch in one shape or form, right? Traditionally, what happens is, in a given family of applications, in the same version, the subsequent versions, you would also want to go ahead and use the same install command line. To enable to do this, what we have is we have provisioned a choice to say the customized switches to be applied to the new version or not. Okay. And whatever customization that I've applied to one version of the application coming in from the package feed module will be applied to the subsequent versions when I import them next time. So when this option is checked, so that this helps with an end-to-end automation, because every time I have a newer version of Google Chrome, I don't want to go ahead and update the install command line parameters to my need. It will be completely automated.
Yeah, and that goes back to kind of the different levels of customization or options you have for packages. So as mentioned, coming soon for EXEs especially, but MSIs too. If you have further beyond the silent command line switches that we suggest, you can add those and we'll remember them each time. So another time saving and automation capability there.
All right. The last item I think we have for today, which is going to come again in 2024 R1, is ability to update applications in Configuration Manager. So this is um, more of a convenience and cleanup story, because every time you have a new application, that is new version of the application that is coming in, you tend to perform your test in Admin Studio and then publish to SCCM, right? But then you want to also maintain certain hygiene in your SCCM, and let's say you have the older version available in SCCM, and you're publishing a newer version, you would like to go ahead and say, you know what, I'd like the existing version to be replaced with the newer version, right? So we have introduced what we call as an update application. A wizard process follows where you can select a target application as well, and the process will go ahead and replace the application in SCCM. So this is a complete choice. We also are aware that certain users want to keep an older version. Okay, so this is not enforced by any means. In case you would want to maintain hygiene on SCCM and remove the older version and then just keep the newer one, okay, you can use this functionality to update application on the on Admin Studio, which will push to SCCM.
Yep. More ability to automate and take away manual work that's traditionally been done in the past.
Yeah. And there's a question for Crispin here. Can I automate the running of these package tests, and are more testing options planned in the roadmap? Okay. So the first question is, can I automate the running of these package tests? I am 95% confident that we will have a commandlet interface and a REST API interface to finish the performance, the functional testing of the application. Okay, and are more testing options planned in the roadmap? Definitely, certainly, we would like to. I think one of the feedback we just received is, can we extend this to not in that not exactly this direct question, but can we extend this to MSIX packages and help apply fix-ups, right? So we would love to explore that possibility, but we have to explore the technology and the kind of written codes that we actually get. And in case we're able to, I think we'd definitely like to add that to our roadmap. And if you can think of, as I said, coming from a completely QA background here. Okay, if we should treat Admin Studio as a huge test suite, right? It can perform various kind of execute various kind of test cases on a given application, right? So in the first increment of the functional testing, we have 3 test cases, which is install, uninstall, and launch the applications. And if you have any more feedback on a specific type of test that you'd want to run on the application, okay, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll evaluate them and add them to our roadmap. There's a question from Sean here. In PFM, Citrix Workspace versions are old. Is there a reason for that? We'll take a look at this, Sean. I think it should not be a big deal. I think we have a very good history of updating the applications, and we'll evaluate that, and we'll take that. Okay. A follow-up question from Sean. When will Admin Studio 2024 R1 be released? Okay. I'm not sure of the history of how we communicate release dates, but we everything goes per plan. Okay, we have a Q2 launch. By end of Q2, we'll be able to launch Admin Studio 2024 R1. But as usual, it comes with a fine print that we have all the in case we run into certain issues. Okay, there is a scope for either a delay or all the roadmap items that we talked about. Okay, there is a possibility that one of these might slip out. Okay, but we'll have the features and the date are on the best effort basis, but the current projection, Sean, is on end of Q2, end of June 2024.
Yeah, so fair to say probably within about 60 days or less from today's date, which is the 15th of May.
All right, I'll stop sharing. That's pretty much that I had from a roadmap point of view.
Yeah. We got a few other questions. Let's see. A question about MSIX. Can you convert MSIX to MSI? Because similar to an earlier question we had, it's really kind of difficult to go from a virtual container back to traditionally install application. So, I mean, if there's enough interest, right, we're always open for feedback. We have an ideas page on our customer community. If enough of you are interested, I'm sure we could at least take a look. But traditionally, it's always been starting with an EXE or an MSI and going forward, if you will, to, in the past, AppV, now MSIX, versus kind of going the other direction. So not at this point in time. And I think there was a question about scenario, Darren, starting with an MSI, and he's got 3 shortcuts that are inside of it, and they point to the same executable, saying probably a primary, the main executable for that application, but they have different arguments, and one of the shortcuts points to a batch file. So how would the MSIX converter handle that? I think it's one of those scenarios where it's not going to be automatically handled for you directly, but you could support that in the sense of MSIX has, I think they call them applications, which is kind of a confusing, but it's in essence their version of a shortcut. And you can have those shortcuts, you can have PowerShell launch before or after that runs. And there's ability to kind of customize or modify, that logic that way. So perhaps that's a package support framework fix-up customization you can do in the MSIX editor inside of Admin Studio. So, it depends on the scenario, depends on what you're doing with those different switches, but that might be a way to, I believe the shortcut itself, you can pass parameters into the executable that's inside the MSIX virtual container. But in essence, you could handle it that way. So it's like back in the day, repackaging an EXE into an MSI, it'll capture the end result of it, but not all the logic is going to be maintained. So if you need to kind of recreate some of what's going on with it, you could do that in the MSIX editor. So a similar process in the MSIX editor inside of Admin Studio. Hopefully that helps. All right. Question on our support for Admin Studio and App Portal. That's another solution from Flexera. That controls the location where an app gets published. So App Portal has its own categories. Think of them as folders, but categories within an application. And if there's a service that sits in between Admin Studio and App Portal that allows them to talk to one another. If you have that configured, you have an additional tab inside the application manager in Admin Studio. And the idea is when you publish to like Config Manager, then it immediately calls App Portal and basically says, hey, I just put this in Config Manager, create what's called a catalog item, a listing that points back to it for end user requests. And you can specify one or more categories in that process. What I typically seen helps is put it in kind of a category like staging or something that's really not accessible to most end users, just accessible to yourself, other IT folks. And you may want to tweak it and customize it before you move it, because you can have one app show up in multiple different categories, kind of promote it from that hidden staging category to production if you want. But yeah, you can select one or more categories where that catalog item gets created. So that's that one. Let's see.
And there's a question on Numiscent packaging technology from David. David, in all candor, I haven't heard about it. We'll explore, what kind of packaging format do they have, and see if there is any conversion path there.
Yeah, I'm not an expert at it, but I've heard of it, but I don't know a lot about it other than I think it is similar to MSIX. It's just from a different vendor. And yeah, today we don't have any conversion support or really anything around Numiscent, but yeah, like Venkat said, we can let us know and we can take a look at it and see if that is something. It's hard to do conversion of virtual package back to physically installed. Similar, it's hard to do virtual app to virtual app, although Microsoft has support for AppV to MSIX, and that's what we're leveraging. But, you know, one vendor's technology to a different one may be more challenging. And maybe room for one more. There's one on MSIX doesn't, this person, Rules, had difficulty converting certain packages from MSIX to a package. So you don't have to start with an MSI. With Admin Studio anyway, you can start with, you can take an EXE and leverage our repackager either directly or through what's called the automated application converter, where we can spin up a VM and kind of manage that process for you. But we can capture that EXE and turn that into an MSIX package and MSI at the same time if you want. And I think the person references a Microsoft tool specifically. I would, just like any other application, MSIX is kind of rare, but Microsoft themselves, being the vendor for MSIX, are releasing more and more of their apps as MSIX packages. So I would look to them to see if they have either a native MSIX package already created, which they may, some of their apps they do, or if they have a procedure to create it and follow those guidelines wherever possible. I think we're good at this point. So,
so do you want to talk about our community?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you haven't visited community.flexera.com, and there's a section just for Admin Studio, all the documentation we have is there. We have videos in our Learning Center. So if you're new to Admin Studio, you want to kind of get up to speed, links to if you want to go with our partner for training classes, we offer that too. Have other videos. We have a blog that when we post new releases, as well as just interesting articles related to Admin Studio. So a lot of good information, as well as an active forum. So if you have questions, feel free to post questions there. You can search across the forum. Very possible somebody's already asked your question behind, and we have a certain period of time where we try to answer every question we have. And then there's a long link, maybe take a screenshot of it. But if you have suggestions, we're always open to more what topics to cover in future roundtables that we have. So please post there and let us know if you have a specific topic. We have the history of all the other past roundtables, but maybe there's a topic we covered a year or so ago and you want us to revisit or something like that. So always open to the feedback on that. Yeah, we appreciate you joining today, and we usually have one every couple months, so we look to have another one in July. So hopefully you'll come back and we'll talk about some more interesting topics. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.